So, UFC 311 has come to a close. Makhachev versus Moicano. We're going to cover all of the fights that should be made after this card to continue the hype or get fighters back into the win column. We're going to cover the winners and the losers of the main card. We're also going to cover 3 of the fighters from the prelims. So the first prelim fighter we're going to be covering is going to be Bogdan Guskov, who's coming off a very impressive submission win over Billy Elikana. Billy Elikana was coming into this fight on a very short notice to make his UFC debut. Guskov was supposed to fight Johnny Walker. This one's a tough one. Bogdan Guskov has lost to Volkan Ozdemir in 2023. Personally, he said that he doesn't mind who the UFC book him against. I think the best fights for him is going to be the Johnny Walker fight. The reason is you could put that as one of the main fights on a fight night card. It could be a very impressive fight, and it could get people hyped up over Bogdan Guskov because he is a finisher. It's up to 90% finishes. He has the same percentage finish rate as Jiri Prochazka. They're both getting known for their finishes. So I think you give Bogdan Guskov Johnny Walker, and you're kind of feeding Johnny Walker to the dogs with this one. I think Bogdan Guskov is just going to knock him out. But he did a very good fight. You don't see much submissions from Bogdan Guskov. He beat Elikana on the feet. He made him tap out in the first round, but it was after the bell. And then he went back out there in the second round, and he made him tap again. So, he beat him twice. So I think Guskov fights Johnny Walker, and I think that's the fight to make, personally. I think Guskov beats him very easily. The second fighter we're going to be covering on the prelims is Azamat Bekaev. Now, this one is a bit of a weird one. The reason being that Bekaev came in on short notice. After being the LFA champion, he's come on to fight Zach Reese. Zach Reese was initially supposed to fight Cedric Dumas, who I actually favoured Zach Reese to get the win. As soon as I heard he was going to fight Bekaev, I did change my decision, and I thought Bekaev was going to beat him. I didn't think he'd beat him in round 1, but Bekaev is very good. I think it puts him up to 15 out of 19 fights he's finished now. And it's not all by knockout, he finishes by submission and knockout. He's a very well-rounded fighter. And we got to see that in his performance against Zach Reese. He was taking him down, and he was beating him on the feet, which finally led to the KO, which is a great way to start your UFC debut. And he wasn't too far down in the card. He was fighting above the likes of Grant Dawson, Bogdan Guskov, just before Peyton Talbot. So I think there is a good chance he gets a very high-rated fighter. Personally, to me, I think the best fights for him to fight is going to be Merab, who is coming off of a submission loss to Reiner Derrida. And I think that is the better fight for him to take. Merab is good on the ground, but he has also got a lot of defeats. So I think it is just going to be like stat padding for Azamat Bekaev, which I think a champion needs. I think he is that's just a step behind Reiner Derrida when it comes to popularity and getting the big fights. So I think if you give Bekaev Merab and you let that fight happen, I think Bekaev comes out on top. And I think it's another one of them where you've got another fucking organisation's champion come in. They look good against your mid-level fighters, and you can start slowly progressing them up the rankings. So the third and final fight from the prelims that we're going to cover is going to be Peyton Talbot. And I mean, what bloody happened there then? You've lost to Raoni Barcelos. You were a minus 1,100 odd favour on the UFC website. Other websites, you was a minus 1,400. Like, you can tell Talbot has lost a lot of people money. He lost me money. Yeah. I said it in my predictions that he would win. I was wrong. But his next fight should stay the same. Give him Cody Garbrandt. It is the perfect matchup for the likes of Peyton Talbot. Go back to your gym and improve. Work on different things that you need to become a better fighter. There was holes in your game. There was holes in his game. A lot of people like to hype him up loads. He's very good. But Sandhagen said it himself. There is a lot of holes in his game where he comes up against higher class fighters. He's going to lose. And I mean, hell, you lost to Raoni Barcelos. Now he's in the win column. And Barcelos can call for the likes of Garbrandt. He could call for the likes of bloody Pedro Munoz. Right? Things like this. Whereas you've got Peyton Talbot. He now has to get a good fight back. And I think it's Cody Garbrandt. I think he will be able to beat Cody Garbrandt. He hasn't looked too good recently. And Garbrandt's a fan favourite. He's a known name. You beat Cody Garbrandt, that's on your record. That is a very very good win to have. If Talbot is able to beat Garbrandt, boom, all of his hype is back. Everyone starts being his fan again. And that's what you need. So I think Cody Garbrandt versus Talbot, right, versus Peyton Talbot, you put that on a card just before summer, right? You can get that fight done just before summer. And Talbot back in the win column, very good win for this year. Get him to fight another 1 or 2 times if he has no damage. And then he's looking good again. He looks like he can get back in there. This is what you have to do to your up-and-comers. You kind of have to stat pad them a bit. So that's what I would do. So now we're on to the main card. Covering first fight, Kevin Holland versus Reiner de Ridder. This one, I did not see it ending this early. I said Reiner de Ridder by submission. I knew he would get it done. He was the middleweight 1 championship and light heavyweight 1 championship. He isn't some newcomer, right? He got the submission on Mershart and made that fight look decent. He's a good fighter, a very well-rounded fighter as well. Very big fighter for middleweight, 6'4". But you're looking at it. We'll start with Kevin Holland. Who does he fight now? Well, there's 2 ways you can take Holland's career. He's a fan favourite. So, do you put him against the younger middleweights to build up them? Right? So, do you give him to the likes of Ikram Alaskarov? Do you give him Bo Nickel? Give Bo Nickel somebody who is a fan favourite who could get up there? Do you give him the likes of Chris Curtis? Or Roman Kopylov? Get Roman Kopylov, another name on there. There's a lot of fights that can be made. And this is my problem, and not a lot of people want to talk about it. I don't think he's going to get a big fight. Yes, he's a fan favourite, but he's losing so many fights recently. Like, in his last 5, he's won 1. He's losing a lot of fights, so I can see him genuinely getting the likes of, like, Eric Anders. If I'm being fully honest, I see him getting the likes of Eric Anders, or I see him being a stepping stone for Cesar Almeida. And I think the Almeida fight is probably a lot more likely. So I reckon it will be Kevin Holland versus Cesar Almeida, and I think Cesar Almeida beats him. I just see Kevin Holland's career going down from here, personally. But, yeah. We're now on to the likes of Reiner de Ridder. He's called for somebody in the top 5, and this man is got to be bloody joking. You had a good performance against Mershart. You had a good performance against Kevin Holland. But you want to jump the line and fight top 5. So you want to fight the likes of only two people who haven't got a fight booked in top 5 is Whitaker and Chimaev. It's not happening. You're not getting a fight like that. I can see him getting a Marvin Vettori fight. I can see that fight getting booked. I can see him getting a Delidze fight, or a Brendan Allen fight, or a Paulo Costa fight. I can see one of them fights getting booked. And I think he has looked very good. But I just don't think he's done enough. You beat Kevin Holland, but like I said, everyone's beating Kevin Holland nowadays. That's not really the best win to get. Personally, for me, I would put him against the likes of Chris Curtis, because he has a good name. You know what? No, I'm fed up. Marvin Vettori needs a fight, and we need to see him. We need to see Vettori fight more. He didn't look that good against... Well, no. He survived against Cannonier, and Cannonier somehow went on to lose 2 fights against, yes, 2 people who are now top 5 and top 6. Right? Cannonier is still a very good fighter. People aren't recognising that. I think Vettori versus Reiner de Ridder will probably be one of the better fights you can make currently for Reiner de Ridder. Right? It's just outside top 5. So you're talking he's 7th. It's a good fight for him. That's a fight that I would be looking at. Because Vettori hasn't got a fight booked. He hasn't fought since 2023, and he's on about retiring, is what I've heard. So I think that's one of the better fights that you can make for him. Like, Allen's got a fight booked against bloody Hernandez. Paulo Costa hasn't fought recently. Well, he fought Strickland, didn't he? I think Vettori or Paulo Costa. Going back and forth now. I think Vettori. I think you give Reiner de Ridder Vettori, and I think that is one of the better fights to get. So, the second fight of the main card. Jailton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. Jailton actually getting a knockout. I thought that was surprising. I had him by submission. He submits everyone, but he did good against Sergey. He looked good on the feet. Right, he beat Sergey on the feet. Right, he took him down. He looked good on the ground against him. Sergey was doing he didn't look bad himself, but there is levels. I'll cover Spivak first. I think the best fight for Spivak is going to be Tai Tuivasa. Tuivasa's coming off of 4 losses in a row. Right, he's lost to Rosenstruck, he lost to Tybura, lost to Volkov and Pavlovich. And he's lost to Garn. He's coming off 5 losses in a row, 5 losses in a row. Right, for Tai Tuivasa. But I think that's the fight you make, because who else can Spivak fight? Tybura's booked against Mick Parkin. Rosenstruck is booked against Pavlovich. You've got Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is coming off of a very good win. I guess you can give him Derek Lewis. I just think Tai Tuivasa is a better fight for Spivak. I think Derek Lewis could fight the likes of Curtis Blades next, personally. Even though Blades is fighting Kuniev, I can't believe that fight's went ahead. But Lewis could sit there and challenge Blades. I think you give Almeida Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane did not look that good against Alexander Volkov. All seriousness, he did not look good against Volkov. Volkov got robbed in that fight. Right. And Cyril Gane has got 0 ground game. It's like bloody Dagestani's horse, 0 grappling. Almeida has amazing grappling. Cyril Gane is shite on the floor. Right. He turned down the offer from Khabib to go there. He should have went to Dagestan and learned how to wrestle. He is amazing striking, but he's shite on the floor. Almeida takes him down and controls him instantly. Genuinely, that's my prediction. I think Almeida takes him down and submits him, does whatever he wants to Gane on the floor. So I think you give Almeida Cyril Gane, and you give Sergey Spivak Tai Tuivasa. And I think both of them fighters win that matchup. Almeida beats Garn. Almeida moves up. Right? Spivak beats Tuivasa. Spivak might move up. Right? You never know. But them are the fights that I would make personally with that fight, or the fight I've seen out of there. So next after that is my favourite fight of the night. Jiri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill. Thank the Lord Jiri Prochazka knocked this fucking crybaby out. Both of them had a good performance, had good moments, very good striking from both of them. Both of them also showed a lack of defense again. Jiri Prochazka moves his head loads, and that's a lot better than moving his head into punches, which he did against Alex Pereira. Problem is, a lot of kickboxers are taught not to move their head a lot. The reason is, in boxing, you slip to the outside, right? You're safe. In kickboxing, you slip to the outside, your head could be met with a knee or a kick, right? So your head's either going to be indented by a knee or a shin's going to get wrapped around it, which is exactly what happened with Jiri versus Alex Pereira. Now, the thing is this, Jiri has called for a fight against Alex Pereira. Stop calling for that fight. It's not the best fight for you. I love you. Jiri's my favourite fighter. He is. Alex Pereira versus Ankalaev is a great fight that got booked, and I'm going to cover that in a video shortly. That is a great fight that's been booked. Both of them are massive for the light heavyweight division. I can't believe Alex Pereira made middleweight at some point. Right? Both amazing. Now, win or lose, I think Alex Pereira should move up to heavyweight, because there's what is left for him at light heavyweight. Jiri Prochazka is still calling for that fight. That is not the fight for you, mate. I think if Ankalaev wins or loses, Jiri challenge Ankalaev. But the problem is, I think Jiri's third. This is my problem. I think Alex Pereira is above everyone. From there, I think Ankalaev is a lot better than everyone else. I think them two are a lot better than everyone. So the problem I have is I would give Jiri versus the winner of Allberg Blachowicz personally. That's the fight I would make. Like, get another fight under your belt. He hasn't got too much damage. Barely any damage. Right, a little bit of a face, bloody bruises, swelling. As soon as that goes down, you're as sweet as a nut. You're fine. Right, fight the winner of Blachowicz Allberg in the summer. Right, or a little bit later, maybe August. Right, then see what the scene is. Ankalaev might beat Pereira. When are they booked for? 313 in March. He might beat Pereira. Pereira might move up. Pereira might beat Ankalaev. Pereira might move up. That's what you're hoping for at the moment. Don't challenge Pereira, because the same thing's going to happen again. You're going to get knocked out by him. And I hate it, because I like Prochazka more. He's my favourite fighter. But fight the winner of Blachowicz Allberg. Reason is, the division's a little bit stagnant. I feel like there's clear cut who is better. Pereira's the best. Ankalaev second. Prochazka's third. Everyone else is fighting for fucking fourth or below. Like, I just feel like that's what's happening. With Jamal Hill, the best one to make money, the best selling one, would be Roundtree. Roundtree had a very good fight against Pereira, a lot better than Hill or Prochazka did. Right, personally, Roundtree has a lot better defense than Prochazka and Hill. Right, the only disadvantage Roundtree has is a little bit shorter than everyone else. But Hill versus Roundtree is the fight to make. Hill doesn't use kicks too much. Roundtree is a Thai boxer. He kicks the legs hard as shite. Right? Jamal Hill's a boxer. He's going to want to try and get in closer so he doesn't get a leg kicked, doesn't get kicked. And Roundtree is going to love that because he's short. I don't like Jamal Hill personally. I think he's a good fighter, brilliant fighter, but I don't like him too much. So I want to give him Roundtree because I think Roundtree beats Hill. Right? I think Hill loses a lot to people within the top 7. Personally, I think Roundtree was a good fight against him. I think Allberg fight, I think that'll be a very close fight. I think Allberg might beat Hill. I think Rakic finally got rid of the trainers who was telling him he was winning in that Ankalaev fight. I think Rakic could beat Hill, right? Rakic gets some trainers that tell him to actually punch hard, hit hard, go forwards. He might beat Hill. So I would do Jamal Hill versus Roundtree. But from there, I think it's a downward trajectory with that career. I understand he's an ex-champion. Who isn't an ex-champion in the bloody light heavyweight division nowadays? Right? Prochazka used to be champion. Blachowicz used to be champion. Hill used to be champion. Everyone used to be bloody champion. Because it's the cursed division. Only Alex Pereira has remained on top of that division. So I'll put Prochazka versus the winner of Blachowicz-Allberg and give Hill to Roundtree and let Roundtree eat this man up, hopefully. That's what I would do. So on to the co-main event of the evening, the fight of the night between Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov. This one, it's a little bit trickier to say where they're going to go from here. I think it was John Anik who was saying Umar Nurmagomedov, rematch. Why? Umar looked good, but in the championship rounds when it mattered, he looked knackered. He didn't want to be there. You're not going to give a challenger another shot just because they took 2 rounds off the champ. It's not how that works. Personally, I say this ain't how it works, but then Sean Strickland beat Driscus. Sean Strickland fought Driscus, won 2 rounds. Personally, I thought Driscus won. And because everyone's saying robbery, Sean Strickland's got another shot. This one wasn't a robbery. No one's saying robbery. Merab definitely won that fight. It was clear as day. The problem is, where do we go from here then? Because Merab has beat O'Malley. He's beat Umar. He's beat Peter Yan. Right? He beat Cejudo. He beat Aldo. Like, the only people he hasn't beat yet are Corey Sandhagen and Figueiredo. Now, Corey Sandhagen's coming off of a loss to a loss to Nurmagomedov. Figueiredo's coming off of a loss to Peter Yan. So neither one of them are going to get a shot. So out of the top 5 in that division, they're not going to get a shot. Marlon Vera, Chito Vera don't deserve a shot. Cejudo, Song Yadong, they're fighting. Whoever wins that doesn't deserve a shot. They thought they'll fight the top 5. There's no one for Merab to fight. And I'm hearing people say Sean O'Malley rematch. Why? Sean O'Malley lost to Merab. Right? I'm fed up of champions losing a belt and not having to win their way back. It happened with Adesanya. He lost his belt to Pereira. He got the shot. Right? He got that second shot. He won. He lost that shot to Strickland. Right? He lost to fucking Driscus, but then he got given another shot against Driscus. Like, this is the thing. Adesanya, right, lost to Pereira, won it back. Lost to Strickland. Strickland lost it to Driscus. For some reason, Driscus was given Adesanya. The same thing cannot be given to Sean O'Malley just because he sells fights, just because he's popular. A champion who loses their belt can't be given a shot instantly because they were the champ. It doesn't make any sense. For me, it's a bit of a difficult one because Umar's beat Peter Yan. No, Umar beat Sandhagen. For me, I think the best fight for Umar will be either Yan or Figueiredo. But then I want Sean O'Malley to fight either Yan or Figueiredo. I think them are the matchups you can do. Right? You can even give Sean O'Malley to Sandhagen. I don't mind. But them are the matchups you should be looking in for. Right? Umar versus Peter or Umar versus Figueiredo. Them are the better ones. Merab. Right? I have said this. Pantoja He's lapping everyone in that division. Right, he's beat everyone. Roy Valley's now fighting Manalka. It's fine. Have Moreno fight Kai Kara France or Tatsuro Taira. Okay. Pantoja move up to bantamweight and challenge for a double belt status against Merab Dvalishvili. And I think that's so much of a better fight, Pantoja versus Merab. Like, I think that could be a close fight. So, them are the fights that I would prefer to see. Pantoja versus Merab. And then Merab, it probably beats Pantoja. But it gives both of them time for their divisions to clear up that little bit. At the moment in bantamweight and flyweight, you don't know who's the best. You don't know who's gunning for a shot. Like in the top 5 in bantamweight, 4 of them are coming off of bloody losses. O'Malley, Umar, Corey, and Figueiredo have all lost their last fight. Peter Yan's the only one who's won his last fight. But does he deserve it over everyone else? So this is the thing. They need to match them to see what happens from there. So I think Umar versus Figueiredo or Yan, and I'd prefer him against Figueiredo. Right, I prefer the Yan versus O'Malley rematch because I think Yan beat O'Malley the first time. So that's what I would do. Okay, and on to the last fight of the night, the main event. Like, did anyone actually see anything other than that happening? No, that's the thing. Did anyone see anything different happening? Did people actually think Moicano was going to win that fight? Short notice to fight against probably one of the best lightweights ever. And he's there going, this is my only chance. I have to take this chance. What did you think was going to happen? Like, Islam was obviously going to win. It was stupid to think anything otherwise. So, but with that, what is it? They've said Arman has to fight his way back. He doesn't get a title shot instantly. He has to fight his way back. You know what? Forget that. We'll cover Moicano first. I think Moicano, there's a couple options we can go. You can go for that Dariush fight again and try and rebook that. Because let's face it, Moicano took 0 damage, right, and he got choked out. I mean, fuck, we can book him onto 313 instantly against Dariush. Like, nothing changes. I would like to see, though, that makes more sense, but I'd like to see Moicano versus Pimblett. And now I know Paddy, there's talks about Paddy the Baddy fighting Michael Chandler and fighting either Saint Denis. And I think that's cool. But I think you make Pimblett versus Moicano. It just depends. They've had beef in the past, and I think it would be more of a moneymaker. Like we now know Pimblett isn't fighting on the UK card was it London card? We know he's not fighting on the London card. I think this March. We know that's not happening. So put him against Moicano, right, on the 313 card, because that could be a good fight. Other than that, there's tons of fights he could do. This lightweight division, right, it's up in the air at the moment. And this is my thing why I'm so annoyed with when Dana went, oh man has to fight his way back. I'm all for it. Punish the people who pull out of fights and ruin the cards. Punish them. But who's fighting Islam now then? Because it can't be Topuria, because he's on about fighting Volkanovski again. And I think that's a stupid fight to rebook. But you've got the likes of Islam now. Arman can't fight him, okay. So does he fight against Charles? Because Charles deserves it, doesn't he? Coming off of a win against Michael Chandler, who sat there stagnant for 3 years, waiting for a roided up bloody drunken druggie of Conor McGregor, and nothing happened with it. So, because, I beat him by decision, by the way. Michael Chandler by decision, he beat. He couldn't even finish him. How does Oliveira deserve a chance against it? Everyone's calling for Oliveira Makhachev too. Why? Because he's a fan favourite. Like, even then, Oliveira Tsarukyan too. Why? It was one of the last fights. It was the last fight Tsarukyan had was against Oliveira. Why are we going to rebook it to see, prove you still got it? What? He's back. He hasn't lost a bloody arm, right? He still deserves the title shot because who else deserves it? Justin Gaethje, who's coming off of a loss to Max Holloway. Again, looked awful against Max Holloway. Max Holloway beat him all night, and then he got knocked out. But he's fighting Dan Hooker in 313. Then you've got the likes of Poirier, Holloway, Chandler, Gamrot. Right. Who's Arman going to fight? That's the thing. Personally, I'd love to see Arman Tsarukyan versus Dustin Poirier. That's the fight I would like to see. Arman versus Dustin. Then I'd love to see Oliveira versus Max Holloway to try to clear up that. But the problem is, you've got no one for Islam to fight. Right? I think it's stupid. Book Islam versus Arman. That's the fight that people wanted. That's the fight everyone was trying to and about, saying that Arman's just about worse in everything, but by the tiniest margin. Islam's a tiny bit better in the feet. Islam's tiny bit better in the wrestling. Islam's tiny bit better in gas tank. Good. Let's prove it. Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev. You can literally do the turnover for that one in the summer because is it Ramadan in March? Ramadan's sometime early this year, between February and March time. So book that just before the summer, springtime. You could book that fight. That's the fight to make. Tsarukyan versus Makhachev, nothing else. I don't want to see Makhachev versus Oliveira too. He doesn't deserve it. Gaethje don't deserve it. Poirier does not deserve it. Holloway probably deserves it more than anybody else. But I still don't want to see him get it right now because he beat Gaethje, went back down, got knocked out. I want to see Holloway beat Charles Oliveira or Oliveira beat Holloway for the next shot at Islam. There is no point saying, he's not going to get that shot. It just slows everything down. Every division at the moment is kind of stagnant, right? Where there's one fighter who really could get a shot at the champ. In the lightweight, that's Tsarukyan. Give him the shot. So it would be so stupid not to give Tsarukyan the shot against Islam. So I'm gunning for Tsarukyan to get the shot against Islam again. Just rebook it for spring or the summer. That's as easy as it gets. Just rebook it like that. Right, but them are my picks for who I think the winners and the losers of the main card, and then 3 are from the bloody prelims, should fight. But it was a very good card. Probably one of the better cards I've seen recently. Like, a lot better than the other weekend, right, which was a fight night. But we've got another good card coming up on February the 1st, where we should be able to give some clarity on who's where within the rankings. If you agree with my picks or disagree, I don't mind. Comment down below and say who you think people should be fighting.